What's up, you guys? Welcome to the Monday edition of the Injury Analysis Show. I'm Mike Gallagher. We actually got news today. We could actually break this down. I've been reading everything I can. I'm going to try to update you guys the best we can on Tyler Herro. Should mention we already took an under on him because it's pretty clear that a lot of people covering this team feel negatively, which I'll get to. Filling in for Dink is Dank. How's it going, Mark?
It's going great. Second time talking with you today. We recorded a pod this morning, and I think it went great. So excited to have that hit the airwaves. And some interesting news ahead of Game 5. Wasn't necessarily expecting this, especially with the Heat down 3-1, but we did hit on the pod about how Miami just really needs an offensive spark to come from somewhere. So clearly this is their last ditch effort to get a spark out of Herro and potentially get the series back to Miami. But as you mentioned, we took up points under Arnhem. Aren't necessarily expecting him to play great in a super long layoff to come back to the heated environment of a finals. But excited to talk kind of the details with you and the range of outcomes we could potentially see tonight.
Yeah, so timeline here, right? Game 1 of the playoffs, hurts his hand, has been out. It was a 6-week timetable. He's past that now, coming up on almost 8 weeks. So the timeline's not an issue. And then we saw Game 1, he was cleared for contact and still started going to do more work. He was doing stuff with the Stay Ready group yesterday, which was interesting. You saw him working with like Jamal Cain, who obviously can't play, Yurtseven and those dudes. So that was interesting. And then I think that we have the Woj report, and Woj is the best, but he's been a little off on this. We heard him kind of hint at Game 2, and it was more like Game 3 is like the worst case. It sort of seemed like, I'm kind of paraphrasing there. So they've been pretty aggressive, the national people, on this Herro stuff. Should mention Chris Mannix, who does boxing and some other stuff. He also reported basically the same thing Woj reported. So Woj just basically saying Woj is on an island. But the Miami Heat beats have consistently been poo-pooing and raining on the parade of Tyler Herro making an impact. Anthony Chang, who all the Heat beats are awesome. Anthony Chang said they're not expecting him to start. His stuff has generally been low expectation. Ethan Skolnick, who covers the team for 5 Reasons Sports, he has been really aggressive. I listened to pretty much all his podcasts, and he has been bold almost and saying how he's not expecting Herro to make an impact. He said one of his sources said that he wasn't gonna, they're not expecting him to play much. This is obviously prior to the news. This is like basically that pod was like right after Game 4. And then Ira Winderman, who's covered the team for like 20 years, he also kind of phrased it where he's saying like, oh yeah, the last time Herro returned, he only played so and so minutes, missed his only shots he took. So it's a clear trend that the Miami Heat beats are, not setting high expectations here. So we put him at 12 minutes. So we're kind of, maybe getting a longer leash. He could play 1 or 2 minutes. He could play 27, 28. But besides, I think that covers most of this. And he actually had a shooting wrap on his hand as well yesterday. I saw some video that Malika Andrews posted. So that's the news side of it. What is your inclination on how Herro affects this rotation? We could talk about player specific, but just keeping it to Herro. What are you expecting tonight?
Yeah, and they one tweet also mentioned that Herro's still experiencing soreness in the hand, but still, since it's the final kind of elimination game for them, he's going to try and play through it. So clearly, there's been some setbacks along the way. You mentioned the initial timetable was around 6 weeks, and it's been a little bit longer. And again, as you said, the national reporters thought he was going to come back in Game 3. And it's kind of been just kept getting pushed back. So in terms of the rotation, I think we're going to see him probably get subbed in the first quarter. If we're assuming he's coming off the bench, I think it's a pretty low percentage chance that he is inserted right into the starting lineup. It just seems, like a little too much to put on his plate in his first game back. And so I'd expect him to get subbed in probably around, the 4 to 5 minute mark in the first quarter, kind of either if Duncan starts tonight or if, Strus is still in there and not playing well, I could see Herro potentially being the first sub in there for one of those two guys. And then, I kind of think his minutes expectation is based a lot upon how he plays. I doubt that he's going to take over a lot of ball handling initially. Just obviously with the sore hand, hasn't been running the offense at all over the last 6 weeks. That again, I expect his role to be purely scoring oriented and spot up shooting. So I imagine they'll probably run a few actions for him, trying to get some shots early, getting a little bit of rhythm. If he makes those shots and does find a rhythm, then I could see him, getting an 8 to 10 minute stint in the first half, potentially broken up into 4 or 5 minute segments. It is a hand injury, so he probably has been conditioning a little bit, but it's still, still a pretty big leap from relatively like walk through stuff with, as you mentioned, Jamal Cain and some of the Heat backups to, road finals game. In an elimination setting in Denver. So I would expect, probably between 8 to 10 minutes in the first half, or maybe 6 to 10. And then, if those go well, he'll probably get a stint again in the second half. If those go poorly, I could see him not playing at all in the second half. Experiment kind of went wrong, didn't work out for the Heat, and they, go back to what they've been doing. So that would be my lean, and again, kind of based on his performance and how he shoots the ball will determine if he plays in the second half or not.
Yeah, so if I had to place a bet on when I think Herro subs in, I would place my bet as for Jimmy sub. We saw Jimmy sub out earlier in game 4, which was unusual. Usually he plays the full first. So that was a new rotation wrinkle. So I think they stick with that. So I think Herro's getting the non-Jimmys. If he only gets the non-Jimmys, we are cooking with our bet. But which I think that's the low end. On the high end, he takes all of Strus's minutes. I think Strus can't now, especially now. I don't think Strus is starting. You can't take Duncan out. He's got a 72 shooting in this series. He's been great. I think they just start him, and I think they kind of slot Herro into that position there. So if Strus only plays like 10 minutes or something, that would be bad for us. Yeah. But I think that's kind of where I'm at. So I think that the range is realistically 5 to like 20 would be real hot. Just Miami, they just, this is so uncharacteristic for them to take a guy out for so long. They go on this run. Obviously they're playing poorly now, but it just seems like I just really don't think he can get to 25. And he might not play. They're phrasing it. Woj is saying expected. I mentioned, there was a tweet from, I assume it's from Skolnick. It's from his network, and he was saying like, oh, if he plays. But yeah, I've got pretty low expectations. We'll definitely talk about him there. So talked about Strus, talked about Duncan, Gabe Vincent, Lowry. How would you? I think like who's at risk of losing the most minutes? For me, it's Strus by a mile. Basically 18 of his 19 quarters have been bad scoring wise. I think he's 2 of 25, excluding that big one. So after Strus, who do you think could kind of crater? We saw Gabe get nuked the last game. I don't think Lowry's affected too much. Maybe not as much ceiling there. But if you had to rank like whose minutes are in jeopardy the most, who would you pick after Strus?
Yeah, I would think probably just with role, probably Duncan's ceiling, I think, has impacted the most. Maybe not his floor. Like, as you said, I think they have to keep him out there, but I think his ceiling, getting to 25 plus minutes like we saw last game is probably a bit more in question. Just with Herro playing a very similar role. I think Love could potentially get cut down. When we're kind of talking about ceiling outcomes and Herro potentially hitting the mid 20s, like I think that's probably the upper ceiling, 25, 26. And in that case, I would think he would definitely start the second half. And, maybe that could be in place of Love. If they still want to roll with Duncan, but so I think
tiny though.
Yeah, it is really small. So, but and then I don't know, Gabe or Lowry. I don't think their minutes are too impacted by this. Again, I think they'll continue to do the ball handling. I don't necessarily think Herro will be thrust into that role right away. So, but probably Gabe 3 for me, and then Lowry 4 out of that. Yep. Out of that group. Yeah. After Strus. I think Strus, is in big trouble.
Yeah. In complete agreement there. And we talked about it on the pod. There's only like 2 locks to start. Jimmy and Bam. I don't think Gabe's a lock to start. Obviously Strus is not a lock to start. And Kevin Love, I think it's pretty crazy. I think Kevin Love is probably the 3rd most secure Heat starting player. And I was, after kind of talking through this, it's so tough. The Nuggets are so hard to play, and it just had a tweet out that they faced 10 different starting lineups, and only really the Suns ones were because of injuries. This team is just so hard to guard. But Yeah, I think that mostly. Any other that probably makes it really unlikely that Haywood Highsmith gets out there? This, maybe actually one thing that could be viable would be benching Love and then just playing Caleb there, and then put
Yeah.
Love in the Zeller minutes.
Hmm.
So I think that's another. So there could be a really difficult rotation. So actually thinking about it that way,
It could
yeah,
it could lean
I
them
think
smaller,
Vincent's.
but yeah, it could lean them smaller, but that would be such a dangerous game to play.
Yeah,
Putting anyone besides Bam on Jokic has not gone well. So
yeah,
even Zeller offers a little bit of size, but yeah, I mean that would be really tough minutes for the Heat to
yeah.
survive.
Yeah, they don't. They clearly don't like Kevin Love at center, which he's not a very. And there was no zone in the last game too, so that's something which he's not a great center for a zone with how they like to play it with their shape shifting stuff that they run. Caleb, Mile High Martin, as I'm calling him today. It sounds like he's going to be good to go. We saw the last two games in altitude. He had the migraines and illness. Did not his two worst games by a mile minutes wise. Anything that we should be keeping an eye on there that you can note other than that? It's just tough to get a read on it. And if
Not
he's coming off the
necessarily.
bench, that's something.
Yeah, I just think in general obviously adds a lot more volatility to the projections and the rotation. So
Mhm.
I'm really eager to see what the starting lineup is. Again,
Mhm.
there's multiple iterations that we think could be possible tonight, which is pretty surprising heading into Game 5 of a finals. So
Yeah.
so I think it's just a little uncertainty. I think betting on that uncertainty one way or the other is a good way to go tonight. Maybe we should take a look at some Strus unders as well after this
Mhm.
if we're both pretty down on him and think he's the most likely to get cut here. But in general, I just think kind of taking the big picture approach with Tyler Herro coming back after this long layoff, being put into a Game 5 of the NBA Finals, just a really tough situation to perform well. Right off the bat. I mean, it's gonna be a crazy environment inside Ball Arena, and I mean that's got to be extremely tough after a long layoff to come in and have confidence and feel like you're in rhythm and play up to the speed of the game. So people are kind of dubbing this a little bit on Twitter as the Heat saving grace. Maybe Herro can come back and
Yeah.
drop a bunch of points and bring him back in the series. And I think that is a very unlikely outcome at this point in time. I think most of the time, and this happens if we could simulate this situation 100 times or whatever. I think probably 75 to 80% of the time it goes pretty poorly for Herro just after the long layoff and again getting put into NBA Finals games. So while it does offer a little bit of optimism to Heat fans, I still think it's a pretty long shot that he has a meaningful impact tonight.
Yeah, and Strus is. I was looking at Strus stuff yesterday, and the Hero News only hit him a little bit. He was at. I was considering betting 10.5 points rebounds, and it moved down to 9.5. So no, not bad. But yeah, that's probably how I would go if I wanted to bet against Strus.
Mm-hmm.
That mostly covers the Heat side. Should mention Nikola Jokic had his ankle taped at some practice / media stuff yesterday. Jared Greenberg said that he was a little bit limited in their kind of walkthrough / practice / whatever you want to call it, and then was more full in like the media available stuff, not listed. Had his worst game of the series, maybe offensively.
Mm-hmm.
It looked fine to me. Is there anything that you have any concern on Jokic? Maybe the minute ceiling isn't outrageously high, like we seen earlier when it went 40, 42, 44. But are we going to get full Joker closeout today?
I think so. I would imagine him to play through obviously pretty much everything at this
Mhm.
point, and with his, I guess, kind of lack of burst, if you will, about how often he's jumping off the floor with that ankle. I'm not too worried about it. Obviously, I think the biggest thing it impacts is his footwork defensively and potentially being able to be in position defensively to contest at the rim. But offensively, I'm not too worried about it impacting him all that much. Again, my only concern would be the impeccable footwork we see from him in the post. But yeah, overall, I'm not too worried about him being limited necessarily. I do think, maybe like the 45, 46 minutes is might be out of question. And we do land in the 40 to 44 range kind of thing is probably what I'd expect. The very upper high end might not be there, but a lot of last game, he lost minutes due to foul trouble. as well, not necessarily because of the ankle. So I think, if he avoids fouls, he should end up in the 40 to 44 range.
Yep. And I should mention Jamal Murray had a kind of a cut on his hand, was taped up. Non-shooting, I don't think it affected his shooting. You could try to make a case for it since he didn't shoot the ball very well at 5 of 17. I just thought he got switched on to Bam a lot and just didn't get a lot of clean looks, and his passing was exceptional. So not much to add there. Definitely expecting huge. I think he's going to play a ton today.
Mm-hmm.
I think they might put him out there for like 45 or more. Any other notes? I think that mostly covers it. I guess just really quick on the Herro alt stuff. I know it's been a topic for our Discord. I don't hate it. I would play. I see people playing like 20 plus. That's kind of how I would do it. Just to like lean all the way into the high end. Just because I think, as you said, like 80% of the time he's going to be probably under 10 minutes. I think. But if he's hot, he could really, really get hot. They just need offense so bad. And also mentioned it on the pod, their jump shooting possessions have dipped every single game of the series. They're not getting clean looks at all, other than the Sun Run game that they won when they made everything, which wasn't even really on volume. It was just like they made what they got. Mm-hmm. But they certainly need that aspect to their game. But so yeah, I get it. But I would want to play the pure ceiling. I wouldn't want to play just over points. Obviously, we're playing as unders. Any other stuff that betting wise, or any other notes you want to just share with peeps?
No, I do think if you're betting, alt stuff is better, just because the payoff is better if he does play well. I don't think there's too much of a middle ground here tonight where he just plays solidly and is out there for 12 to 14 minutes and scores 9 or 10 points or whatever. I think it's going to be one under the other. And again, we're leaning into the under. I would lean towards the under, but if you do want to bet, I think alts is the way to go. But yeah.
Yep. All right. So That'll do it. Anything else?
No, that's all.
Cool. All right. So this show is brought to you by our friends at Underdog Fantasy. You could use ETR projections to play their fantasy pick'em game, and of course, you can play Best Ball Mania at Underdog Fantasy. I'm in the Best Ball streets now. You are in the Best Ball streets, Dank. It's such a fun experience. I was telling my friend, and one of my friends is addicted. He's like not even an industry guy. He's already 100 drafts in. Wow. Underdog is the best. Yeah, it's crazy, man. He's Underdog's just, you're gonna get hooked. So $100 deposit match, promo code ETR. It's the best. As I forgot to pull the screen up, but hosting and talking at the same time is difficult. But pretty excited for the game tonight. I kind of want to bet Denver just to blow them away. I think they're just so outmatched. Miami is. So we'll be back. Actually, I'm missing the Dinkisms here. If you're not going to support us with your hard-earned dollars, support us with your hard-earned clicks. Smash the like button with us, please. Subscribe if you're not. Go subscribe on the podcast too. That should be on your feed any minute now. As Luke just let us know it's in there, so check that out. We talk more about adjustments, both from a play type and personnel standpoint. We covered most of it, but check us out there. And then later today, it'll be me and Chris Lafagus doing a little showdown breakdown. He and I always like to have fun. Maybe we actually will have to bring back F, Marry, Kill maybe for this one for Herro stuff. So make sure you check us out there for possibly the last. That's it. You're gonna be a football guy now. Things go Denver's way. So all right, appreciate everyone. We will be back if there is a game on Thursday. If not, this might be it, man. This might be it. So
if it is, it's been a great season.
Ready. Yeah, it's been a great season. So I really appreciate everyone. You guys are the best. The lack of complaining we get from you guys is truly the best. So you can complain in the off season. We'll be good. So thanks everyone, and we'll catch you next time.
Peace.